So good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Campanis, and this is the I Was Hungry Garden Ministry. And so does anyone know that phrase, I was hungry? Where do you know it from? Yeah. Yeah, anyone else know it? So it's in Matthew 25, the parable of the sheep and the goats. And you guys, you can read that to your kids tonight, maybe. So you got the sheep on the left, and the goats on the right. No, the goats on the left, the sheep on the right, and it's talking about. Oh, he's got something kind of dangerous there. Is that okay? I think that's the part off the porch. That looks like you pulled someone die out with that. Good job. So a little threat mitigation there. So what was I? Matthew 25. Jesus is talking about, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. Hi, and I was sick and you looked after me. I was a stranger and you invited me in. And then he makes a very curious statement, and you know, the things that Jesus says are usually very mysterious to me. But he says, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. And you know, there's a lot more to it than that, and you can go read it. But when we help the poor and when we help the sick, who are we helping? Jesus. Now that's very unusual. And so I was watching videos about Mother Teresa. I grew up sort of Catholic, and a lot of my friends were Catholic. So I was watching this Mother Teresa video, and she'd hold people as they were dying, and she would pretend, or she'd fantasize, or she would experience that they were actually Jesus that she was holding as they were dying, and she would comfort them and love them. And she did this to hundreds of people, and I thought that was very curious. And then I started to do the gardening, and I got inspired to do the I Was Hungry Garden Ministry. So that's sort of how it came about. Any questions about that, or yeah?
Mother Teresa came to my school when I was a little girl and she touched me.
So Mother Teresa touched my wife at her school. So if you want to come up and just touch my wife, that you will be blessed. I do it all the time, and I'm very blessed. And we got a good crowd here. This is great. I just want to show the people in Greece. They love to garden, and they have a lot of gardens there. But it is going sort of industrialized like we are. Are there any gardeners here in the group? Anyone here have a garden? Now, Joel, you have a garden. Yeah, and she came. Chris, sorry. She came with her gardening equipment. So, are there any questions about what we're going to do today, or anything? Well, you're going to do whatever you want. There's lots of jobs to do, but you know, you can look around and see that, you know, things are doing really well. We've been very blessed to have amazing soil here because we're on a creek. See the creek back? Well, you can't see the creek, but you see the tree line? There's a creek back there, and so this is called alluvial bottom soil. So if you dig in the ground, you're going to have 5 feet of just chocolate, just beautiful brown black soil. And then we have a well in front of the house, just where those cars are, and we have 200-foot well of really good water. Now it smells like sulfur, but it's really, really good water. And then we have really nice equipment. If you look over on the porch, we use a lot of cordless equipment, and so we don't have gas and oil and antifreeze going over the crops, which is nice. And so I thought that I would. And this is kind of the story behind the ministry. So I thought I'd grow food and give it to the poor. And I started studying the soil, and I thought, well, hey, all you do is put on nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and things grow like crazy, and that's true. But you know what happens when you put nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium on your crops? What happens? Does anyone know? Huh?
Everything grows like the weeds.
They grow like crazy. But there's one problem, is they taste awful. So you have this big, beautiful fruit that tastes like cardboard. Is anyone familiar with that? Raise your hand so I can see. Now, what have you noticed that in?
Well, I just noticed it different times at the grocery store. I'm not a gardener, but
Yep.
sometimes it looks
No flavor at all. Does anyone know what that is? Does anyone know what causes that? And I had to learn all this. So what causes that is micronutrient deficiency. So the plants don't have any micronutrients in them. And you've all heard probably that our soils are totally devoid of micronutrients. And so your soils don't have micronutrients, your plants don't have micronutrients, they taste awful. And what do the kids do when you give them this food? They spit it out and they say, no, I won't eat that. From the mouths of babes, right? And then what happens to our bodies when we don't get the micronutrients? Huh?
We don't grow.
We don't grow. Yes, but what
We get
else?
sick.
That's true. What
We
else?
get sick.
Huh?
We get sick.
We get sick. Okay. What else happens?
We're deficient.
What disease is is one of the primary causes of micronutrient deficiency? Cancer. So cancer is caused primarily by two things: micronutrient deficiency and toxicity. So ingesting or putting toxins on your skin. So, and then obesity is like when your body doesn't get micronutrients, you're always hungry. You're always going back to the refrigerator. Because you're not hungry, you're not satisfied. Does anyone relate to that? So I started doing the garden ministry and I weighed 240 pounds. This morning I weighed about 160. So I've lost 85 pounds. And a lot of the arthritis and things that I was struggling with have gone away. And so what happened is I started a soccer ministry. And this is I was hungry. And the soccer ministry is I was a stranger and you invited me in. So we have a lot of immigrants come to the church at Fellowship and play soccer, and we share the gospel with them or just be friends with them. But another very curious thing started happening after we started the gardening ministry is we would get a lot of cancer patients that said, hey, can I come and get some of your food? And I said, well, why do you want to do that? And they say, well, our doctors have put us on a nutrient-dense diet, and we need to eat organic foods and very fresh, etc. And so they started, a lot of cancer patients from Fellowship will come here and get food. And you never know that. I mean, you'd never, it's not something that, it's, we're thought of mostly as feeding hungry people. And we do that. We grow thousands of pounds of food here. And we take to shelters and it goes all over the place. And, but that really surprised me too. So there's been a lot of surprises in this ministry and a lot of blessings. I'm a lot healthier because of this. And so, yeah. And it makes sense, when you think of Genesis chapter 2, God created man and he put him where?
In the garden.
In the garden. And why do you think he did that? He'd have food to eat and all of his needs would be met. But, there was much more to it than that. So spiritually, God would meet them in the garden in the cool of the evening. You remember that passage there in Genesis? It talks about that. And then emotionally, when you see God creating food for you out of thin air, it's really faith-building and inspiring. And then physically, you're getting all this nutrient-dense food, and no one eats like a farmer. When I'm walking by the food, do you think I just leave it there? No. I eat it when I go. So a lot of times I'll be out here, instead of making a salad in the kitchen and cleaning up all the dishes and the cutting board, I'll just be chewing and eating while I go. And that's a tremendous blessing because it's very fresh and very good. And you get the best tomatoes when you're the guy pulling the weeds because you find them. And so we also have a lot of kids ministries coming here, like the FSM group at Fellowship will come and they'll work and they'll learn about the garden. And I have all the kids come forward that hate tomatoes. And so they all come forward and I give them one of the fresh cherry tomatoes and I have them try it. And I say, what do you think? And they go, wow, this is really good. Because, they're used to the store-bought tomatoes that taste awful And the reason they taste awful is they don't have any micronutrients in them. Is it still going?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
And,
10 minutes.
pardon?
We're at 10 minutes.
Okay, so it's about time to stop. Okay. The reason they taste awful is they don't have any micronutrients in them, and so there you go. That's how you know. And so, what we've gone to here, you'll see two different kinds of agriculture here. We have a lot of fruits and vegetables, so there's a lot of fruit trees behind you. This tree is a maple tree, and so we have food. How many months a year do you think we have food?
12.
12. Okay, you know the answer. So can you explain how you do that?
Well, just different foods grow in different seasons, and so
Mhm.
I'm sure you have winter vegetables and spring berries and
Yep.
summer melons.
Yeah, very good answer. So yes, we have food 12 months of the year. And doesn't that make sense? You think God is going to give us no food like for 4 months of the year? So God is a faithful God. He's giving us food all year round. So this maple tree, it produces food in January. Does anyone know what food that produces?
I'm putting water on
Syrup. Yeah, so you look in the bottom of the tree, you'll see a bunch of holes where I've wounded it. And that pumps out gallons of sap all day long in January. And you know, I don't boil it down. I just drink the sap. I put it in the fridge and hydrate with it. And you feel good after you drink that. It's amazing. And then over here, you see those flowers coming up on the left there? On the left? Those are Jerusalem artichokes. And they are, they're harvested in the winter. And a lot of the root vegetables, like the turnips, you'll harvest in the winter. So God's faithful. So what we're doing is putting out this mulch. And what the mulch does is it keeps the weeds down, but it also brings the soils to life. And it's the life in the soils that provides the micronutrients. If the soil doesn't have life, there won't be any micronutrients in it. You need all the organisms in the soil. And that's a pretty amazing thing.
Do you want to explain about the fencing?
Yeah, and so there's electric fences. They're turned off, okay? But yeah, there are electric fences there, and so what we'll be doing today is you know, little jobs here and there. Does anyone know the curse that God put on the garden?
Weeds.
Weeds. Thank you, Joel. And he was explaining to me this morning about his garden is very weedy, and so you know, basically we'll be pulling weeds today for the most part, and and you can walk around if you want to take the kids somewhere fun. There's a creek back on that tree line there and a swing.
Is that fence on too?
No, they're all off. I went around and shut them all off. And then a lot of people, you know, I'll give people jobs, you know, if you want jobs. If you want to just walk around and look, I'll give a tour of the garden. If you want to just be on that, you're fine. And so, yeah, any questions? We'll wind it up there. We'll have, Joel, will you pray for us?
Yeah, I'll be glad to.
And yeah, in just a minute. And we'll have a prayer and then we'll get going. So huddle around here and you can stop the camera, hon. Thank you.